evening is Be it resolved, Libya is better off without Gaddafi. For the motion, Jim, our Prime Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you've all been fascinated by what's been going on across North Africa and in various places in the Middle East over the past 6 or 7 months. And the most important aspect of that is where there's actually a revolution to try and get rid of a dictator who'd been there for a long time. Libya is this particular case in point. I'm going to define Libya is, of course, Libya, but better off, I'm going to say, is beneficial for more people in the John Stuart Mill sense of benefit of the most people most of the time. So Libya is better off. Libya, the people of Libya benefit without Gaddafi there. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Gaddafi, who was Captain Gaddafi, and I guess he became colonel over the years, when he took over in 1968, I believe it was, something like that, became an absolute tyrant. Nothing else can show the world better what a tyrant and dictator can do to his people than Colonel Gaddafi. You have a situation where he was responsible for Lockerbie bombing, for a lot of terrorism, a lot of wasted effort, a lot of wasted money that came from the oil that should have gone to his people, but actually went to him. So, an interesting point about Colonel Gaddafi being out of the picture is that the whole world, how many times does the Security Council gang up on a particular country to say, yes, this person has got to go? There's one of the very few times when that's actually happened, and all of the Security Council was behind this. Very, very unusual. So obviously the world also thought that Libya would be better off without this guy. And as the world moves towards greater freedom, as the last speaker showed you through the availability of information out to more people, democracy becomes the norm. And so Libya is much better off without a dictator, and Gaddafi specifically.
Thank you, Jim. And now, against the motion, please welcome Heather.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little bit dismayed by the distortion of facts delivered by the Prime Minister here today. However, I'm not surprised. It's the job of the government to mislead the people. I am here to state the facts for the record. Let's just say, today we had some, or actually on the weekend we had an announcement by the interim Prime Minister of Libya, and he announced that the government, the new government, is going to be formed and the legal system will be based on Sharia law. He also announced that men will now be able to marry more than one woman. I would argue that what that effectively does is it obfuscates and isolates more than half of the population. When Gaddafi was in power, he was one of those strong men that, albeit he was a megalomaniac and he was cruel and he was vicious and he supported terrorism, he did keep his country together. And you need a strong arm to keep,
women in check.
Yes, to keep women in check. But seriously, the future of Libya remains to be seen. We do not know that it's going to be a democracy. So if they're already potentially alienating more than half of the population, it's not necessarily the case that the country will be better off. The Honourable Prime Minister mentioned Lockerbie. Well, there was a sense that there was state-sponsored terrorism. Gaddafi paid restitution. That's the beauty of having a state sponsoring terrorism. You're not looking at you're not going to war and looking up for a guy in a cave. You've got a big guy on a pedestal and he pays you billions of dollars. They also threw a guy on the slammer. And then the other point he made is that there's oil, that he kept all the proceeds from the oil and he sold out his people. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in the West. May I remind you that we were one of the beneficiaries of this sweet crude. We drive around in our cars, we heat our homes, and it's all thanks in large part due to 4% of the oil that's refined in Libya and sent out to the rest of us. But I would like to make the main point of why the world is not better off without Gaddafi. Who else eats hamburgers while they're getting hair plugs? Have you seen the guy's wardrobe? I mean, he puts the Queen to shame with his hair. Where would the GOP be geopolitically? They wouldn't know where anywhere was in Africa, let alone Libya. We heard them in the debates. I mean, Gaddafi wore little plastic badges with Africa on them. Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, Sarah Palin, do you think they know where Libya was without Gaddafi up, talking around in his big badges? And last but not least, he's good for jobs. Think of all the virgins he employed in his security detail. Again, it goes full circle back down to where the population will benefit. And we're talking about the people of Libya. We knew what he did when he was in power. A minority of the people, if you weren't in his tribe, you had to watch your back. But I would argue now that at least he supported half of the population, being the women. And it still remains to be seen whether or not they're going to have a better life without Gaddafi. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And now the final word to Jim.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a travesty of the facts that the leader of the opposition just covered. Half of the population was supported. Which half is that? Was that the half that were in the graves, or the half that were still alive in the prisons that were being beaten and tortured all the time? Which half was it, Madam Leader of the opposition? Half, indeed. As far as I understand the situation, only about 2% of the population of Libya actually enjoyed some form of compensation for being under the rule of this tyrant. It's great that Colonel Gaddafi was able to have a strange fashion sense. Well, if a leader of the opposition thinks that that means that he should still be around, then so be it. And what did he do for hamburgers? Personally, I still think McDonald's has got better hamburgers than Libya may have. And of course, jobs and virgins, well, I guess virgins got to find something to do on in their off days. So, ladies and gentlemen, vote for the motion.
Thank you, Jim. And now, the vote for the motion. 6. And against the motion. 12 against the motion.